From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Back after a nice long holiday break. I hope it was good for you. I took advantage of it. I got some new gear for the New Arts and Media Studios. The old mixer is gone, and I've got a new digital interface that I'm very pleased with, and I'm still figuring out how to use. I've been in radio for many, many years, and I'm still mostly an idiot when it comes to the tech side of things. I know just enough to get a show on the air, and absolutely no more than that. This new interface I got is really beautiful. It's got 8 channels in, 8 channels out. I see already I'm getting lost. I can do all sorts of layering for the Charles Purcell Presents kind of radio art stuff and sound art that I do. But I'm figuring it out. Right now I can only get 2 channels to work. One is left and one is right. I'll figure it out. Hey, speaking of Charles Purcell Presents, there's some news for you. That's making a triumphant return. We haven't done Charles Purcell Presents since pre-COVID. It's been at least that long. If you're not familiar, Charles Purcell Presents is a weekly half hour. It's a mix of, I throw some commentary in sometimes, but mostly it's about radio theater and sound sculpture and sound art and spoken word. It's artsy, fun stuff. It's not so much comedy. I try to be funny sometimes, but it either comes out, it doesn't really come out funny. I'll confess to that. It comes out, I don't know, maybe I might get lucky every once in a while. But it's not really funny. It's more whimsical or a little absurd. But I'm not going for funny because I just haven't got the talent, man. You and I, we talk about this a lot. I love comedy. I'm a huge fan. And I have so much respect for people who do it well. And I know that I'm not at that level. And not that I won't keep trying. I'll keep trying till the day I die. Oh, but I think we've talked about this too. There's nothing annoys me more than people who think they're funny and they're not. Oh, Lord. So anyway, not to get off on that tangent, Charles Purcell Presents is this nice mix of, like I said, sound art, radio theater, some of it serious, some of it weird, some of it kind of funny. And we're bringing it back at the, when are we going to start that? February, like first week of February, which is the anniversary of this show. We'll be starting our 3rd season, our 4th season. Oh my God, I got to go back and look at my calendar. We're starting a new season on the 3rd. I had promised here on the show and online that we'd be making some small format changes to the log. And I never quite got around to ironing out the details of that. So no big format changes today. But that first week in February is when our actual anniversary is. We start a new season, so to speak. So if there's going to be any format changes, it'll be there. So anyway, that's all to say that I had a good break. I had fun. I recorded some new radio theater. I wrote and recorded some stuff. And so that'll be ready for the new show. And I hooked up the new gear, and I had to patch everything, and it required a you know how when you move one little side table, it all of a sudden the whole house is rearranged? What kind of happened when I patched in my new gear? The whole studio changed. It was so much fun. That's the most fun I have in the world. So I had a good holiday. Nice conversations with my kids, a couple of nice, good, long phone conversations. Of course, they're out in California. I hope you had a great holiday. The news has been just awful and weird. So let's you and I catch up on some news here. Got to talk about not only Betty White. Let's go ahead and take a look at the folks we lost. I always think that's there's some benefit to taking a look back at the end of the year of who we lost. It's a nice opportunity just to remember not only the people themselves, but what they stood for, what they accomplished, what moments in history we recall when we think about them. I'm really not much of a celebrity person. In fact, I'd go so far as to say I don't get it. I don't understand the whole celebrity thing. I don't know why you want to know about a celebrity. I mean, if you're an admirer of their talent, of their art, whatever that is, if they're an actor or a musician or whatever their work is, and you're interested in hearing about their work, okay, I get that. But I've never for a second understood why anybody wants to know about some movie starlet and her new husband and the new addition on their house, and they're going to have twins. And I never understood. I'm just baffled by that. Why anybody would be interested in those things. Why would you care? Outside of their work, I'm interested in them as cultural figures, as historic figures. I'm interested in their work, sure. Anyway, let's talk a little Betty White. There's nothing I can tell you that you don't already know, except that she's going to be buried in Mineral Point, Wisconsin. Time for a road trip. Mineral Point, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, southwestern Wisconsin? I think so. Not too far, a couple hours from here. I think I'll take a little road trip one day and just pay my respects to Alan Ludden and Betty White. Alan Ludden is buried in Mineral Point, Wisconsin, his hometown. And of course, he was the love of Betty White's life. Her third husband and forever husband, Alan Ludden. So she's going to be, I happened to see a headline yesterday. She's going to be buried in Mineral Point. So I think I'll go over there. The thing about Betty White that I'd like to say is, of all the other people we're going to talk about here in this segment, she brought the most joy and did the most good. She brought the most goodness to this world of anybody we're going to talk about today. Just by being herself and just by using her talent, her advocacy for animals. She was just a sweet, funny, talented, hardworking person. The kind of person that I wish I could be. The kind of person I wish more of us would emulate. The funny thing is, let's take a look at her big roles. Well, first let's start with the early days. 1952, I think I read her first sitcom on television. One of the very first sitcoms on television. It ran. It was, I don't really understand this. The first show she was on ran for 5 hours. It was a 5-hour show in the middle of the day, and it was live. And she played like the wacky neighbor. And they were learning lines, and they were improvising, and oh my God, it must have just been a hoot. And then she went on to do all sorts of things. We love her from, I'm old enough to remember her on the Match Game. She was hilarious there. So she was like this queen of game shows, a very frequent guest player on Password, hosted, of course, by her husband, Alan Ludden. And then now we get into the things that more contemporary people know her for. If you're old enough to remember the Mary Tyler Moore Show, one of the great sitcoms of all time, just quality throughout, writing, production, the cast was amazing, and she was just great in the role of Sue Ann Nivens, the happy homemaker. And then after that, I tried to watch Golden Girls, and I know it's beloved. I never understood the appeal of Golden Girls. It totally eluded me. It was way too sappy and sentimental and kind of over the top, and the jokes were too on the nose, you know. And every 5 minutes they were getting sentimental and playing this sappy little sitcom, here's the serious moment music. Yeah, I never got it. I never understood Golden Girls. I couldn't watch it for 5 minutes. But that's me. It's, everybody just loved Golden Girls. And then she also then starred in, what was the Cleveland show? What was that called? Hot in Cleveland? Something like that? With Valerie Bertinelli and, who else? The woman from Frasier was in that show. And that other woman. These actresses, I don't know their names. Let's see. Where would you know her from? She was, I don't know, very familiar face. Oh, she was in that sitcom with David Spade. Remember that one about the magazine? I'm being so helpful. This is what makes me a great TV critic. Anyway, the point being, as much as I admire Betty White, that was a terrible show. It was just a terrible show. And I wasn't going to tune in just to watch her. It was just painfully bad. Our standards for television have just gotten so low. But anyway, she got older and older, and then she kind of got famous for being old, and she was always out there working and did a couple of movies and the sitcoms I just mentioned. And then that great hosting gig on SNL, I think she got an Emmy Award for that. I just watched it this weekend. NBC aired it on the night that she passed away. And she was great. She was 88 and a half years old, as she mentioned a couple times when that aired. So I guess that was over 10 years ago. But yeah, they replayed it this weekend. And she really worked. If you're familiar with SNL, the host, of course, is in several sketches. And maybe they'll also take part in maybe one of the pre-taped, one of the filmed pieces. But she did as much or more than any recent host I've seen. She was in practically every scene. My favorite was late in the show, she did this great sketch with Tina Fey. Tina Fey is a census taker, and Betty White plays this sort of daft woman who doesn't quite understand the concept of the census. And it's just damn funny. I'm sure Tina Fey had a lot to do with the writing. Maybe she wrote the whole thing. I don't know. Often performers write their own stuff. But it was genuinely just really funny. And here's what I liked about it. It had absolutely nothing to do with Betty White being old. It had absolutely nothing to do with her being old and horny or bawdy, which a lot of Betty White's shtick in her later years, that's what the writers were always doing. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if the old lady is horny? And the writers of SNL were kind of guilty of that on occasion. And I don't know, okay, fine. But if the point of the joke is that she's old, do better. Or if the point of the joke is that she's horny or bawdy and old, do better. That's why I loved the census sketch, which I'm assuming Tina Fey wrote. It was just Betty White playing a very funny character and totally delivering. So, so with those little criticisms, and none of them are of Betty White herself. She's just out there working. She's just getting it done. But the writers who wrote for her and kept calling on her to be this bawdy old broad. They wanted to paint her into this corner. I didn't appreciate that. I hated Golden Girls and I hated Hot Hill Baltimore. Hot in Cleveland. I think that's what it's called. Those were terrible shows. But we love Betty White. And I cried like a baby. I cry. I'm a crier. But she's a beautiful person, and she brought so much joy to so many people. And I guess that's the lesson that we can take away. Just do your best. Work hard. Be good at what you do. Keep doing it. Never had a bad word to say about anybody. Oh my God, she is so much the person I'd rather be than the person I am. So to compare and contrast here with Betty White as the standard, let's take a look. Let's just take a little look-see at who else passed away. Just very recently, it was quite a week. We lost John Madden, the great football coach and broadcaster. Harry Reid, he was, I've forgotten, but a Democratic leader in the Senate. Right, Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. And Desmond Tutu. All right, let's stay positive, okay? Because there are a couple people here that I'm going to be mean about. But with Betty White as my inspiration, let's talk a little bit about Desmond Tutu. Okay, here's something I have to say. Reading now from the NPR report, and they're all pretty much the same. Anglican Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu has been remembered at a state funeral Saturday for his Nobel Peace Prize-earning role in ending South Africa's apartheid regime of racial oppression and for championing the rights of LGBTQ people. When we were in the dark, he brought light, Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, the head of the Worldwide Anglican Church, said in a video message shown at a Requiem Mass celebrated for Tutu at St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town. So, nothing but high praise, of course. The news about his death. I don't believe, I'm looking here, I haven't heard the cause of death. If it was COVID, I'm going to just be so pissed off. Speaking of COVID, we also don't know the cause of death of Betty White. If it was COVID, I'm going to be really angry. Like, you guys, if you guys killed Betty White, anyway. So here in this little bio of Desmond Tutu, it's about his partnership with Nelson Mandela and his work on behalf of ending apartheid, his work as a bishop of the Anglican Church, talks a little bit about his family. It's pretty standard. A great admired person, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, here's my complaint, though. What tends to happen when people die, we get either an incomplete picture, kind of a surface picture, or one that seems to be intentionally misleading. Desmond Tutu, much like Martin Luther King, sort of the poster boy for this problem, after his death, used by everybody right, left, and center to make their point. Well, I'm a person of the left. Let me make my point. Desmond Tutu opposed capitalism. He was an anti-capitalist. You're not going to find that anywhere in the obits. I'm looking at Counterpunch right now, an article by David Rovics. But I knew this about him, so I went and I sought out a little more accurate bio. Let me read from the article. It seems very important to mention because of the way this man is already being remembered by the world's pundits and politicians. As anyone could have predicted, Tutu is being remembered as the great opponent of apartheid in his native South Africa. But as with Martin Luther King, many of the same political leaders commemorating Tutu today would have been unlikely to mention him a day earlier, lest Tutu take the opportunity to speak his mind. This is certainly why he was not invited to commemorate his friend and comrade Nelson Mandela at Mandela's funeral 8 years ago. Goes on to say that he would have been too dangerous to be invited to such an event. God forbid that he speaks, because he was vehemently anti-capitalist. He was highly critical of Israel and its own apartheid against the Palestinians, which just isn't said out loud in polite conversation among the media and political elite. You can't call it Israeli apartheid. Well, Desmond Tutu did. He was an open and vocal anti-capitalist. He recognized the modern imperialism of the U.S. So this is what happens. When people pass away, those who remember them do it in a very self-serving way. All right, a quick list. Colin Powell. There again. I don't want to speak ill of the dead. I'm sure he was probably a nice person. You know, good to his family and his kids. I don't know. He certainly had talent. He had ambition. He had success. All of those things. But this praise heaped upon him just was completely undeserved. Just because somebody dies, you don't make him a saint. You know, if there's an afterlife, Colin Powell, I wish you well. But I'm really sorry you lied to us. I'm sorry you took up with war criminals and aided them in their efforts when you lied to the United Nations, when you lied to the whole world about the reasons to go to war in Iraq. Why did you do that? When there was all this talk about him running for president, he started to take it seriously. Well, maybe I could. He actually considered it. Everybody kept asking him. Because he was sort of this blank slate. Nobody knew if he was a Republican or a Democrat. He's just this great sort of war hero. But tell me the truth. Did you ever actually read or hear one of his interviews? during that time when he started actually entertaining some questions about his views? He was nowhere. He was nothing. Talk about a blank slate. He was this horrible sort of the worst kind of centrist with nothing really meaningful to say. And one of the things that totally turned me off, well, the whole UN speech was enough, but he was adamant about gays in the military, which at the time, the Clinton administration, 90s, it was a big deal. Don't ask, don't tell, all that stuff. It was really hitting the fan. And he was against openly gay people serving in the military. And his reasoning was for troop morale. Well, many people will be uncomfortable with it, and it'll be bad for morale. And I'm listening to him give this interview, I don't know, on NPR someplace, and my jaw just hits the floor. Colin Powell. This is the exact same argument used against the integration of black and white troops back in the day. Those opposing integration of the military said, oh, well, it'll make a lot of the white service members uncomfortable. It'll be bad for morale. And he's using the exact same argument. So he wasn't even smart. Come on. Donald Rumsfeld, good riddance. There again, just, burn in hell. War criminal. A genocidal war criminal. Get out of here with this. Donald Rumsfeld. Just pure evil. I'm sure Betty White wouldn't describe him that way. Oh, well, I'm not Betty White. I'll never be Betty White. In the world of politics, who else do we lose? Walter Mondale, there again. A good guy, a centrist. I have trouble with centrists. They're enablers of the right. Bob Dole, there again. Man, somebody dies, people can't wait to say how much they loved him. Bob Dole was just a right-winger, a political elitist jerk. I got nothing good to say about Bob Dole. Rush Limbaugh died, burn in hell. In the world of sports, here in Milwaukee, our beloved Hank Aaron passed away. The Milwaukee Brewers wore his number 44 number. I don't know why the whole rest of the league didn't wear his number. They should have. Of course, he broke Babe Ruth's all-time home run record and held it for many years. Oh, speaking of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Ed Asner, Cloris Leachman, and Gavin MacLeod, cast members of that sitcom, all passed away last year. As did Dustin Diamond. There's another Wisconsin connection. He lived right down the road here in, where did he live? I think Kenosha? I forget where he lived, but it wasn't too far from here. Dustin Diamond, of course, was Screech in that teenage show. What was it called? Saved by the Bell. He had a troubled life, I guess. Of course, Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts, the great writer Joan Didion, activist Bell Hooks. So good, accomplished people. And then I shed some serious tears for comedian Norm Macdonald, who passed away this past year. We talked about him. Well, many others I could mention. Sheldon Adelson, the billionaire Republican kingmaker. Larry King, who I actually had more respect for when he died, I went back and listened to some of his old radio shows. He really was a master. Cicely Tyson, Chick Corea, one of my favorite musicians of all time. Great jazz pianist, Grammy Award winner, multiple times. Love Chick Corea. I saw him at Summerfest back in the day. Way back in the day. That's our summer music festival here down at the lakefront. Used to have big jazz artists. Not so much anymore. Actor Charles Grodin, who's an interesting guy. Kind of a quirky character actor. And then really interesting as a personality. He had a cable show for a while. Just kind of a talking head, interviewer character. I like Charles Grodin. If you have that kind of ability to just be charming and witty and have interesting thoughts, you should share it with the world, and he did. I don't really remember exactly what his politics were. But he was, whatever they were, he always said them in an entertaining, interesting way. He was engaging. And anybody who can bring you into a topic, into a line of thought, into an area of interest that maybe you didn't know you were interested in, that's a talent. And Charles Grodin had that. Good for him. Hadn't thought about him much in the last few years. Donald Kagan is a name you might remember. He really surfaced pretty prominently when the neoconservatives took over this country and took us into war back after 9/11. Donald Kagan was very influential among the so-called neoconservatives in their foreign policy. Nancy Griffith, you and I talked about it when she passed away back in, when was that? August. Wonderful, wonderful artist, folk singer-songwriter from Texas. And as I said at the time, just not nearly as popular or famous or acknowledged as she should have been. She won Grammys, she had her fans, but she was sort of rejected by the traditional world of country music because she was just too good, too smart, too nuanced for them. Beautiful, beautiful artist. Don Everly of the Everly Brothers. Huge, huge influences. Whether you know the Everly Brothers music or not, they influence the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of music. Ask any pop artist, country artist, folk artist, they're going to mention the Everly Brothers as an influence. Michael Nesmith of the Monkees. And if you're cynical about the Monkees as just some TV show, fake band, you don't know what you're talking about. There were four very talented guys, and Michael Nesmith especially. Writer, actor, director, inventor. He was a real sort of Renaissance guy, Michael Nesmith. Like I say, if you've got talent and there's something unique about you and you can really make it work in the world and you can use it and you can share it, my hat's off to you. I mentioned John Madden earlier, didn't say anything about him. There again, someone just universally beloved. You can't find one person to say a bad thing about him. He just made watching football fun. I think his secret, and maybe the secret that we all need to try to remember, be passionate about something. Be passionate about life, but, find something in particular that you're passionate about and then follow it and love it and share it. See, that's what he did. He shared his passion better than most people are able to. But maybe we can all take that as a little lesson. Share our passions. He did it well. He did it really well. So anyway, there are many more, but I just thought I'd pick a few there at random. As I say, I don't understand celebrity gossip, celebrity worship, but I do think it's a valuable undertaking. That's a poor choice of words for talking about people who died. What's another word for undertaking? It's a valuable exercise to take a moment at the end of each year, sort of review and remember, and take whatever lessons those people might have to share with us. All right, there you go. I love you. Good to be back. I'm Charles Purcell.